to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Matt, will you start us off with a roll call?
Counselor Savage.
In the middle?
Here. Halter.
Here.
Zadi.
Here.
Green.
Here.
Demas.
Here.
Tate. Shalata.
Here.
West.
Here.
Mayor Como.
Here, councilors, first order of business, I entertain a motion to approve the revised agenda that you have before you here tonight.
So move, Your Honor.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, this is going to bring us to the approval of the minutes from the City Council meeting August 18th, 2020. Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Move, Your Honor. I move to approve those minutes.
We do have a motion to approve the minutes. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have one item underneath the bid openings, the Rock Springs Housing Authority Thompson Heights roof replacement. And it looks like we have three bidders. The first bidder is going to be Ridge and Valley Roofing and Home Repair out of Rock Springs, Wyoming. The second will be Monte Vista, Rock Springs, Wyoming. And the third will be Shepherd Construction out of Rollins. She was all nerved up. Okay, this is Ridge and Valley. We do have a bid bond attached. Total bid, $111,501.52. $111,501.52. Second bidder, Monte Vista, Rock Springs. We do have a bid bond, total bid, $112,525. $112,525, pretty close. And the third bidder, Shepherd. We do have a bid bond attached. Total bid, $115,000. $115,000. These three bids will be turned over to staff for review and recommendation back to the City Council. Appreciate the work everybody put into providing the bids for the housing. Okay, this is going to bring us to the presentations and proclamations section of our agenda. And item number one, we have Devin Brubaker here to give us an update on the commercial terminal modernization program, Southwest Wyoming Regional Airport. Devin, the time is yours.
Hopefully I can get the screen share to work here. Somebody back there's been making some magic happen. All right, awesome. Mayor, councilors, thank you for the time this evening. I got a couple things I want to talk to you about. I want to give you an update on the airport in relation to COVID-19. That'll be a brief update, and then we'll jump into an update on our commercial terminal project that we've been talking about for a couple years, and we have some exciting news with that. So as I get started, just a reminder, especially to the new counselors we have, who our board members are. Actually have a surprise visitor, having one of our board members, our vice chairman here, Brett Pizzato. But we have Chief Jim Walmsley. We have Brett Pizzato, Dr. Pete Jensen, Mayor Pete Rust, Kelly Sagahara, and then you have myself and Shannon on the administration side for the airport. Just a couple things I want to let you know about with COVID-19. Throw some stats at you. They're pretty scary stats. Back in March, about mid-March is when our transportation system started really feeling the impacts of COVID-19. In April, 95.3% of domestic travel nationwide was wiped out. 95% of it. Here locally, it was close to 96%. That resulted in 2/3 of every passenger jet in the world being parked on runways or taxiways or ramps at airports around the world. The picture on the screen is actually Atlanta Hartsfield Airport. Bounces back and forth between the busiest or the second busiest airport in the world, depending on the year. And that's one of their main runways, just full of Airbus jets from Delta, just parked because there's no demand for air travel. The depressed demand continued well into August. We just got our stats in for August, and we were down 65% in August. So we started to see a rebound. March, we were down 44%, April, 97%, May, 90%, June, 80%, July, 75%, and August, we're going to be down 65%. Since March, we're down 75% on passengers. So it's been pretty ugly. On top of that, our general aviation traffic has been down. We're down about 20% on fuel sales, which is better than what we projected, but it's still pretty bad considering we were on pace to see an increase of 11% this last fiscal year, and we ended up seeing a decrease of 20%. So things are not going great. When I prepared this presentation last week for these meetings, the data we had showed September and October numbers were going to be as bad as May numbers. We got new data this morning right before the commission meeting that actually shows that September is looking a lot like August, so we're getting better news than what we anticipated. It'll be down about 65%, much like August was. Advance bookings beyond that are still very unpredictable. Historically, there's a booking curve, and people start booking anywhere from 90 to 120 days out, and you start seeing rapid bookings, and the closer you get, the more and more bookings. That curve doesn't start climbing until you get within 60 days now. So you don't know what the advanced bookings are going to look like long term, and it's really throwing our industry for a loop. So it's tough predicting. So we've been working with the airline and Uadate meeting every single month. We just had our meeting this month to determine what our schedules will look like in October, and we're going to maintain one flight a day into October, and we'll probably continue that, would be my guess, all the way until March, and then April we would hope to get back to 2 flights a day if things are improving. So we're looking at just having 1 flight a day until that time. If demand comes back sooner, we're able to react quickly and add extra capacity as necessary. Some of the things that we've done at the airport, right off the bat, we've increased our janitorial efforts. We have contract janitorial services, and we've stepped up our cleaning, our sanitization efforts. We've ordered some electrostatic sprayers, and we're just waiting for those to get in. They're all on back order at this time. We also restricted access to our terminal several months ago to only passengers, employees, and those actually providing assistance to passengers with disabilities. So we don't allow families to come in and meet and greet in the terminal right now. We're not strictly enforcing it. We have the signs up and hope that people just abide by the request to keep the crowds out of the building. With the smaller size of our terminal, there's really no way to social distance if you have those families coming in. We also made changes to our staffing. We split out our shifts so we didn't have overlaps, so that if one of our staff members got sick, it wouldn't take out the whole staff. Luckily, knock on wood, so far we've had only one known positive case at the airport, and it was handled very quickly and efficiently with no further spread, and that's been good. So, and the other item is foot on the gas, and that's going to lead right into the topic of the commercial terminal. But our airport board and our staff made a decision at the beginning of this that if we were able to keep our foot on the gas pedal, this is our opportunity to make up some time. As you guys are well aware, over the last 5 years, we've made a lot of progress at the airport, but we had a lot of making up to do. And we see this as an opportunity while other airports, other communities are hitting the brakes and slowing down on developing their airports or growing their airports. We have the opportunity, because of the funding we've secured, to be able to keep the foot on the gas pedal, keep going, so that when this mess is over, we come out of it stronger than what we went in. So our board is focused on that and dedicated to that. I'm focused on that and dedicated on it, and so is our staff. Jumping into the commercial terminal, and I believe all of you should have access to this presentation. I shared it. Hopefully it was sent out with your packets. I believe it was.
Yes.
So I'm going to do my best not to read to you. I'm going to try to hit the high points. If you have any specific questions, please just let me know. Just a little bit of background about our current terminal situation. The first terminal at our airport was built back in 1942. That's the building we tore down in 2017 to build our new commercial or general aviation complex. And it served as our commercial terminal all the way until around 1980, when the current terminal was opened up, and that old terminal was converted to general aviation. Since we opened that terminal, a lot of things have changed in our industry. The largest up until COVID was 9/11. The events of 9/11 have impacted air transportation. What we thought would be nothing else could impact air transportation worse at the time, with TSA personnel coming in with equipment, space requirements, procedure changes. We had a building that was built in the 1980s with none of that in mind. So we've had to acclimate and allow those facilities to operate since 2002. Both the 2003 and 2012 master plans, we have to do a master plan about every 10 years, and both those master plans called for either a new terminal or an expanded terminal. The first time that our terminal was added to our capital plan was in 2013, when we turned in our annual capital plan, and that's a 6-year capital plan we turn in every summer to the state and the feds, and it was listed in 2019, back in 2013, and that was 2 years prior to my arrival here in Sweetwater County. During the period of 2016 to 2019, we saw unprecedented growth at the airport, with an increase in passengers of 56.7% over that 3-year period. A little bit about the goals of the project is to elevate the appearance and function of the gateway to our community. An airport often informs a traveler's first and last impression of a city, and it's important that we present a facility that is a representation of what we want people to think of our community. And that we've done that with the general aviation side. Now it's time to get it done on the commercial terminal side. We also want to develop the terminal to be able to accommodate the future needs of our region, not just build a terminal for what's going to be here next year or the year after, but what's going to be here for the entire planning period, which is a 20-year planning period. We want to increase the hold room capacity to a peak hour forecast of 136 passengers, and that's based on data from the FAA, that we have to follow their forecasting model, and they've told us that based on our data that we'll need to have a peak hour demand of 136 in the hold room. Currently we have 47 for capacity, and we fly 50-seat regional jets daily. During the planning period, 50-seat regional jets will actually be retired, and we'll have to go to larger aircraft, so we need to have additional space for those larger aircraft. We also want to increase TSA checkpoint size to not only accommodate the next generation of equipment, but the current generation of equipment. We don't have a full-body imaging scanner. That would cut down on our pat-downs by about 60% if we had that equipment. We just don't have the space for it. The other technology that we could have, if we had the space for it, is a baggage screening, automated baggage screening. Those of you that have flown out of the airport, you probably got to your destination and realized somebody's been in your suitcase. It's because every bag that gets checked gets inspected by hand. And we can get rid of that with additional space for a automated baggage system. It'll be behind the wall where customers don't see what's happening, and it all gets taken care of automatically. We also would introduce the traditional baggage claim belt. I know some of you are probably nostalgic about our baggage claim slides that we have. So if you want them, I'll go ahead and just let you have them. But we're hoping to put in a true baggage belt, which helps increase capacity. Everything at an airport is about capacity. And when you have that baggage slide, you can only fit so many bags on it. But when you have a rotating belt, you can fit more bags on it as you process those bags coming off of aircraft. And we would also install a passenger boarding bridge. So when it's 10 degrees outside and blowing 40 miles an hour and snowing upwards, you'll be able to walk in a jet bridge instead of have to walk outside to get onto your aircraft, which will be great. A little bit about the schedule. I think most of you are pretty familiar with this. We've been talking to you for quite a while. You guys have been great partners in this process up till now, and hopefully into the future. I didn't mean it in a bad way, sorry. I didn't mean it that way. Don't beat me up. Summer 2019, we finished up the terminal area plan and conceptual design that this council approved funding for. Thank you very much for that. It has helped position us in the place we're at today. In November 2019, we received our environmental determination from the FAA, giving us a categorical exclusion, meaning we didn't have to do an an environmental impact study or an environmental assessment. On April 30th, 2020, it was announced in a press release that the FAA was intending to award $4.9 million to us for the terminal out of the supplemental AIP, Airport Improvement Program funding. On May 29th of this year, we were notified that they intended to seek an additional $6.7 million of discretionary money in fiscal year 21, and told us to basically get our butts in gear and get moving, because if we're going to get that money, we had to be ready to accept it. So on June 19th, we issued RFPs for construction manager at risk services. We went through a robust selection process. We had 7 firms apply for the project, none in Sweetwater County, but several in Wyoming. We had a 7-person selection committee that made the selection and unanimously selected Sletton Construction of Wyoming. They're in Cody and Laramie. They have offices in both locations. On August 12th, the airport board awarded a CMAR contract to Sletton and awarded a design services agreement to our engineering and architectural firm. And then the big news is on August 13th, we got a phone call from the FAA, and they notified us that they had secured $6.7 million, the full amount that we had asked for in discretionary funding for fiscal year 21, and to expect award of that money in April or May of 2021. So looking forward, we have a deadline of December 1st, 2020 to apply for Wyoming Business Council funds. I have spoken with the mayor briefly just to let him know that that's our goal and that I would be in front of you to ask for a resolution supporting that application in the near future. I also am aware that you guys may be applying for a grant at that same grant cycle. So I'm looking forward to working together to hopefully find success for both projects for our community. We expect to receive $11.6 million in federal funds in April or May of 2021. And if the Business Council money is approved, we would receive that in April of 2021. May, we would start construction. We would finish up the last pieces of design in the summer of 2021 and start vertical construction. And then we would expect additional grant funding coming in October of 2021, October 2022, and then construction complete in October of 2022.
And Devin, just to bring the council up to speed, that pot of money through the business council that you'd be more interested in is the business readiness portion, and we're working towards the business committed. So yep. I don't see there being much of an issue there, but we'll work together.
Yeah, absolutely. The next slide is a breakdown of the funding as we see it today. Obviously, this is subject to change and based on certain approvals. It's kind of really hard to see on that small screen up there, so for the council members, hopefully you have it in front of you. But total discretionary money from the FAA would be 6.7 million. FAA supplemental money is 4.9 million. Wyoming Business Council, if approved, is $3 million. Uadate Aeronautics at 1.528 million. Local funding, 1.35 million. Another round of entitlement money from the FAA at $1 million. And then the last four on that list have to be determined next to them. Those four items are items we're still working on that we're confident we're going to be able to bring money into the project on, and it will drop the local portion of the project even lower. But those are things that are like they're the last in, they're the last dollar in that we're working on trying to accomplish. So that gives you a breakdown on the funding as we see it today. Once again, things change rapidly. Just 6 months ago, I think I was here talking about 6 penny at 3.3 million. So you can see how quickly things can change as things evolve, especially as Congress keeps throwing money out there at airports, and if they keep doing that, it could get even better for us. So next steps. So we are working on trying to find solutions. So we have a contract with our architectural firm, and we need to get the design done on the building, and we need to be able to have it designed done and ready to accept grants in April or May. But of course, our architectural and engineering firm doesn't want to work pro bono for the next 9 months. So we're working on trying to come up with solutions on how we fund that design work until the grants come in, and then we can reimburse ourselves with that grant money. So we're looking at everything from debt service. I've spoken very briefly with the mayor and Matt about maybe an advance on some of the local match, and I've also spoken with the county a little bit about that. But I haven't asked for anything. We're throwing all the options on the table, just looking to see what we can do to keep our engineers paid in the meantime. Most of you are fully aware, but the airport operates with very little cash on hand. Due to the COVID-19 impacts, we were forecasted to have over 90 days cash on hand at the end of the last fiscal year, and we ended up with about 13 and a half days cash on hand. So we don't have a lot of cash flow to be able to pay contractors until grants come in. So we're in a situation, we're trying to find a solution is what it boils down to. So we're all ears if anybody has any ideas. If they've seen something that's worked for other organizations, please get in touch with me and let me know so we can throw it out on the table and see what our board decides to do with that. We'll complete our design and bidding to allow for a May 2021 Phase 1 commencement. We'll apply for the Business Council grant by December 1st, and then we'll continue to seek additional funding from the items listed there. And then the big one is securing the local match. We're very aware, our board and myself are very aware that the economic times for the city and the county are not great, and we know that it's not a foregone conclusion that that funding will be approved. So we're going to work our tails off to get that as low as possible, as we have been doing, and then hopefully work with you guys to find a solution on how we cover that local match to make this project happen. So the rest of these slides are renderings from conceptual design. We finished up conceptual, getting ready to start schematic design. Left side is current facilities, right side is the conceptual design. It's hard to see on the screen for the audience, so I apologize. This is just the overall layout. Additional parking gets added because we're gonna have to move the rental cars away from the terminal a little bit due to the expansion of the terminal. This is the floor plan of the proposed layout. It'll change slightly, as with any project. When you go from conceptual design to schematic design, it's when you fine tune and make some changes based on programming needs for tenants and things like that. Next slide, you'll hear me talk during the duration of this project about federal eligibility, and it's always our goal to maximize federal eligibility. Right now, the design is at a 71% federal eligible. That's the green areas. The green, blue, and orange areas combined is the passenger facility charge eligible areas. We collect $4.39 off of every ticket that's sold at the airport, and it has to be spent on approved capital investment by the FAA. It's restricted funds, can't use it for operating or anything like that. And so we're still paying ourselves back for years and years of improvements that we're paid for. And we're gonna, once we get ourselves caught up with that, we'll roll that money back into the terminal and hopefully drive that local match lower. The brown areas, those are the support facilities. So those are prorated. If the building's 71% eligible, then the mechanical rooms are 71% eligible, is basically what that means. And then the gray areas are not eligible. That's airport admin offices, TSA offices, and rental car offices. We'll seek TSA funding for their space. We have customer facility charges, $3 per rental car day that we charge rental cars, and that money is dedicated to restricted funds, once again, for capital investment on rental car infrastructure. So that those funds are there, and we're trying to grow those as we go. These are just some elevations from the different sides. Don't put a lot of weight into the colors or the textures, if you will, because that'll all be decided as we just go further into design. This is just something so it wasn't black and white. So this is in the hold room. It's kind of hard to see, but one thing I'm really proud of is if you can, I don't know if I can get my mouse over there, but above the white tables, there's some light fixtures. You can kind of see them hanging down above the white tables in that picture. Those light fixtures were saved from the 1930s hangar that we tore down, and we've saved all those light fixtures. We're going to get them rewired and relamped so that they're meet current building code, but be able to reuse 1930s light fixtures inside the terminal. The other thing that's not shown in here is I've heard so many stories of people when they were kids driving up and down I-80 and they knew they were getting close to home because they saw the rotating beacon. Well, that rotating beacon was there since the 1940s when the airport was built. We replaced it this year, but we saved it, and it's my intention to have it installed inside this atrium as a museum piece.
Nice.
Being able to protect it from the weather and keep it around for generations to come. So pretty excited for that. This is the baggage claim area. You can see the bag belt out there in the distance a little bit. There's a bag belt, just the other direction. And this is a video fly through, which you didn't have on your pieces of paper. Hopefully nobody gets motion sickness here. You notice the canopy that we have now is gone, and it opens up the front of the terminal with a more modern canopy. We have magic doors they don't have to open. You just walk right through them. This is one area that we're pretty excited about. It's going to go into here in a second, is a public waiting area that also has views out onto the airfield, which we had to get rid of years ago when we had to expand the checkpoint because of 9/11. So there'll be views out onto the airfield there. There's more of those lights again. And the parts that you guys like about this, they were my ideas, and the parts you don't like, they were Brett's ideas, so you can take those issues up with him. Checkpoint area will be expanded to accommodate the latest technology. And then this is the hold room that the glass facade area will be looking over Aspen Mountain, and it'll be able to support not only our current passenger loads, but we'll also be able to handle diversions, which can be big revenue generators for the airport in terms of fuel sales and landing fees. We've been told by United, American, and Delta that they would utilize us once we have our terminal done. There will be a micro market inside the checkpoint, the hold room area, and one on the outside. So you'll be able to get food and beverages on both sides of the checkpoint, which you haven't been able to do in the past here. And this seems kind of silly having this exit lane, but we're required to have an automated exit lane that doesn't allow traffic to go the opposite direction for security purposes. So there'll be a level of automation there that if anybody tries to go the opposite direction, sends off a bunch of alarms, calls the police department, tells them that something is happening at the airport, and yeah, it'll be fun. I've had them at past airports, and they are a nightmare. And that's pretty much it. This is going to take you out to the front, and that's all I have for you guys tonight, unless you guys have any questions.
Well, it's definitely looking more like an airport. I like the renditioning. Councilors, questions, comments?
One quick one.
Councilor West?
Let me find it here. On your other sources of revenue, you mentioned the FAA Vail grant. What's that?
So, Mayor and Councilor, the FAA Vail Grant is the Federal Aviation Administration Voluntary Airport Low Emissions Grant. So it is a special grant program that does not utilize regular discretionary money. It's a set aside, so it doesn't impact our regular funding. We're the only airport in the state that's eligible for it because it's based on air quality. And the EPA has determined that our air quality is in a monitor stage here in Sweetwater County. So it allows us to be eligible for that grant funding. We would use that towards PCR units, ground power units on the jet bridge to provide power to the aircraft and conditioned air to the aircraft. So that way they're not burning diesel or unleaded on like a towable type ground power unit or PCR unit. So it's just another unique way to bring some money in. We may be able to get some money for some renewable energy type things on the building as well.
Just curious. Thanks.
Councilors, any other questions, comments? Devin, we appreciate it. Keep
Thank
up
you.
the good work. And like I said before, when we start talking about economic development, I think one of the key tools in your community is making sure that you have infrastructure in place, and that is airport.
Yeah.
So great job.
Thank you.
Okay, we have under presentations and proclamations, we have Muscular Dystrophy Awareness Month, and we have a proclamation here, and then afterwards I believe we're going to have Mike come down and say a few words about muscular dystrophy and their fundraiser. City of Rock Springs says issued a proclamation that states, whereas muscular dystrophy is not a single disease or disorder that affects everyone the same way, rather that it is an umbrella term that covers a plethora of neuromuscular diseases ranging in severity. And more than 1 million individuals in the United States are affected by one of the different types of muscular dystrophy. And the Muscular Dystrophy Association, MDA, is leading the fight to free individuals and families who love them from the harm of muscular dystrophy, ALS, and related muscle debilitating diseases that take away physical strength, independence, and life. And for more than 60 years, the International Association of Firefighters have stood on the front lines for MDA, and the IAFF is the largest national sponsor of Muscular Dystrophy Association, where there are more than 280,000 members pledged to saving lives both as firefighters and as the strongest campaigners for MDA. And the Rock Springs Fire Department is having their annual Fill the Boot event from September 4th through the 6th, 2020 at the Walmart parking lot, which is an honored tradition where thousands of dedicated firefighters in the nation ask the community in which they live to make a donation to MDA. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Timothy A. Como, Mayor of the City of Rock Springs, do hereby declare September 2020 to be Muscular Dystrophy Awareness Month, and I urge all of our citizens of Rock Springs to participate by helping our firefighters and the fire department fill the boot from September 4th through the 6th, 2020 at our local Walmart. Mike, come down and tell us about the history of Fill the Boot and collect some cash from these counselors if you can. What a great program.
Greetings, Rock Springs. I get a call. I'm on duty right now, so this could get really short if that happens. My name is Michael Forrest, and I'm here tonight to represent the Rock Springs Firefighters Local 1499 and talk briefly about our annual Muscular Dystrophy Fill the Boot Drive. Many of you have heard me speak about this before, but for those of you that haven't, here's a little history. This drive has been a long-standing tradition that began in South Boston in 1952, when 20 firefighters ran a door-to-door campaign to assist a desperate father in need of funds for his child who was diagnosed with this devastating disease. IAFF officially teamed up with MDA in 1954. Since then, the relationship has grown and grown, and the results we have achieved together for those in need of our assistance has been outstanding. The money that we collect not only goes to scientific research, but it helps children and adults to live a more fulfilling life, covering costs of home health care, medication, special needs devices such as wheelchairs and ramps, and also helps to send many children to a week-long summer camp that most of them describe as way better than Christmas. 74 cents of every dollar collected goes directly to these causes. 2020, to say the least, has been a strange year. COVID restrictions have made healthcare in home and out a new challenge for all MDA clients and families. Medication prices have gone up. Things are different, and unfortunately they are not better for the MDA families and friends that I've made throughout the years. Many of the MDA representatives that I've built friendships with and worked with, that I've had the pleasure of meeting over the past 6 years, have either been furloughed or laid off permanently due to this pandemic. Most of the collection for MDA has gone to online boot drives in many places, and in many places the firefighters are simply not allowed to interact with the public and do a traditional boot drive. Our goal this year is to still do our traditional boot drive with safety measures in place for social distancing and limiting person-to-person contact. I think it is important for the community right now to see that we are still out on the front lines and here to help with this cause as much as we possibly can. The MDA needs our firefighters and our communities more than ever right now. We already had a very successful boot drive kickoff event at Square State Brewing on August 20th. Many people in our community showed up to get us started with collections, learn a little bit more about MDA, and enjoy our first ever MD Ale can created by Square State, which sold out very quickly. I'd like to thank Square State for their partnership and all of their hard work. We will be collecting donations outside the grocery side of Walmart on September 4th, 5th, and 6th. Community of Rock Springs, please find it in your heart to drop a donation in the boot for those who are still struggling with this terrible disease. Thank you for your time, and we will hopefully see you all at Walmart.
Mike, we give you guys a round of applause for what you do here in this community. So September 4th through the 6th at Walmart, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
I'm
we'll
giving
be
the
there.
fellas Monday off this year.
We're going to get you a proclamation. What a great effort by our local IAFF. We appreciate that, Mike. Next item on our agenda is the Diaper Need Awareness Week, which is very important as well. Now that I have a granddaughter, I can see how important this is. Our proclamation in proclaiming, let's see if that's correct, September 21st through the 27th, it looks like, was Diaper Awareness Week. Whereas diaper need, the condition of not having a sufficient supply of clean diapers to keep babies and toddlers clean, dry, and healthy can adversely affect the health and well-being of babies, toddlers, and their families. And national surveys and research studies report that 1 in 3 families struggles with diaper need, and 48% of families delay changing a diaper to extend their supply. And children go through 6 to 12 diapers each day during the 2 to 3 years they wear diapers. and purchasing enough diapers to keep a baby or toddler clean, dry, and healthy can consume 14% of a low-wage family's post-tax income, making it difficult to obtain a sufficient supply. And a daily or weekly supply of diapers is generally an eligibility requirement for babies and toddlers to participate in child care programs and quality early education programs. And without enough diapers, babies and toddlers risk infections and health problems that may require medical attention and may prevent parents from attending work or school, thereby hurting the family's economic prospects and well-being. And the people of Rock Springs recognize the diaper need as a public health issue, and addressing diaper need can lead to economic opportunity for the state's families and communities and improve health for children, thus ensuring all children and families have access to the basic necessities required to thrive and reach their full potential. And Rock Springs is proud to be home to trusted community-based organizations, including the Community Diaper Bank of Southwest Wyoming, that recognize the importance of diapers in ensuring health and providing economic stability for families, and thus distribute diapers to families throughout various channels. And these diaper banks and their staff and volunteers served on the front lines of Rock Springs' COVID-19 pandemic response, helping families in our communities weather the crisis. And while experiencing double, triple, or greater increase in demand for diapers due to the pandemic and economic shutdown, these diaper banks did everything in their ability to increase diaper distributions and support children and families in need of immediate assistance. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Timothy A. Como, Mayor of the City of Rock Springs, do hereby proclaim the week of September 21st through the 27th, 2020, to be Diaper Need Awareness Week in Rock Springs, Wyoming. And we thank the aforementioned diaper banks, their staff, their volunteers, and donors for the courageous service during the crisis, and encourage the citizens of Rock Springs to donate generously to diaper banks, diaper drives, and those organizations that collect and distribute diapers to those struggling with diaper need, so that all of our Rock Springs children and families can thrive and reach their full potential. I think that's a very important proclamation. And Shelley, is Shelley here? Shelley, you want to come say a few words?
I'm going to. Could you repeat that?
Yeah, I can. I can.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'm Kelly Frink. I'm the executive director of United Way. I just have a couple of statistics for you. So in 2019, we distributed 76,672 diapers through the Community Diaper Bank, which is, we're a partner with the Food Bank of Sweetwater County. So they help us distribute those diapers. We are in our 7th year of having our Community Diaper Bank. And during the Diaper Need Awareness Week, the 21st through the 27th, we'll also be having a diaper drive. We have had to cancel many of the diaper drives that we have throughout the year because of the pandemic. A lot of people have not wanted to do that right now, or their businesses were closed. So we are having a diaper drive. People can donate diapers at any of the libraries in Rock Springs and Green River, or they can bring them to our office. We may add a few more locations as it gets closer, but we're hoping to also collect some diapers during that time. Does anybody have any questions? I think we made Mr. Mayor read every statistic there is out there. So.
Well, and I'm sorry too, if for some reason I made a note on here, Shelley, and it's
No,
Kelly.
Shelley was gonna come and I came to support her, and she
Oh,
said
gotcha.
you can just
Oh.
do it.
Well, that's what it was.
Yeah, so there, you guys didn't mess up.
But we appreciate what you all do, and by all means, what a very important proclamation, and keep up the good work. You guys always do such good work.
Appreciate it.
Can we give you a proclamation and a picture?
Yes, please.
Themselves in the background.
Yeah.
The picture.
If we raise enough diapers and you forget your mask, you might have an extra item with you.
Keep making these meetings long. We're all going to need one.
Pass out diapers. Okay, this is going to move us on to the public hearings. We have one item under public hearings, and that is public hearing on the application for a transfer liquor license by K Street Incorporated located at 131 K Street, Rock Springs, Wyoming, of which we'll take action under new business item number 1. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this? Now is your time. Anyone? Okay, this is going to lead us to the petition section of our agenda. Is there anyone here tonight wishing to speak, address the council on any issue? This is your time to do so.
Your Honor,
Councilman Zadi?
I do have just some questions in that stem from last meeting concerning the Bear Creek project. Questions I have concerning the timeline. We were told that we put out for the new RFP in such a short time because there were timelines that we needed to adhere to, and I was just kind of curious, what were those timelines? You, Paul?
Your Honor, Counselor Zadi, I don't have them dates in front of me, but we do have completion dates on the grant. Them are the timelines that I was speaking to.
As I called Alan Edwards, Administrator AML and DEQ, and asked him if there were timelines or if there were like a drop dead date or something that these funds needed to be spent, and he said no, there wasn't. That the funds were allocated, they were there, they would be there. It would take, if anything, a simple letter saying, hey, we're unable to follow the schedule that was originally outlined, we need a little more time, and it would have been okay. And I think there was also, I know the core permit, I was wondering if maybe that was it, but that expires December of this year, so either way, if the project moves forward or it's delayed for a little bit, we'd have to do an extension. So I know, I guess on timelines, it threw me off as I figured, well, there's timelines and deadlines, and yes, we probably need to move forward on this, but from what I was able to find, that's not the case. This could have been kind of slowed down a little bit and made sure that we're doing things right. Asked him too about the possibility of the funds going back, because that comment was made last time. It's nothing that I would like to see, and I don't know that anybody else on council would, but talking to Alan, again, Mr. Edwards, that would have been quite hard to do anyway. The thought is that these funds in this particular grant, a facilities grant, is not something AML does quite readily. It's really not a common grant for them. And so if we were to have sent a letter saying we don't want these, they would have questioned why and pushed back hard as to why we're doing this, and it probably wouldn't have happened. Reason being is there's a lot of time and effort put into this over the years, from the inception of the idea of rehabilitation of Bitter Creek. I know last administration too, a lot of time and effort been put into that and trying to acquire funds. Governor Meade's office, the governor's office, and AML all worked together quite a lot to try to get this put together. So it's not something that if we were to say we need a little more time, that they would have rejected or anything. It sounded like it would have been a pretty easy process. So I was just kind of curious as to why we didn't look at that when we see everything that was going on in the questions and that were there. And that's my concern, that the process still, I think, is, I don't know, that's still right where we need it to be. And I don't know what other council feel on that, but I would like to see it on hold and until we can look and see into this process and know for sure that what we're doing is the right thing. But
Councilman Zadi, what part of the process do you feel you're still not comfortable with?
well, the whole thing on how we got here, basically. And then immediately another RFP goes out to try and speed this along, and I understand there are timelines in that for the original schedule, but I don't think that those are really an issue that we were led to believe they were. I just like to have seen concerns of council that we had some input on how we move forward when we run into an issue like this through the RFP process. And this is definitely a different situation than what we see with most RFPs, with all the players involved. So and those are my concerns there.
Councilman Zotti, is there any particular area of the process that you feel we need to hold?
I would have liked to see right now a complete committee away from the city, no city employees involved. If we could work with the county or somebody else to work through this. When we're dealing with a situation with your position, Mayor, both personally and with the city and direct control over city employees, it just has that appearance that brings in question. And I just don't know that we've resolved that.
Okay. Once again, what you're saying is there some question over manipulation of a process?
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying its appearance and what looks and what's there. And as a city, we really need to do the best we can to avoid anything or any conflict or any appearance of conflict or anything. And that's all my concern is and what I want to avoid, because
Understood.
I don't want any question. And I don't want this ever to happen again. I want to do something and have a process that's set up right that nobody questions, and that we know it's right and that it's been done fairly and equally for everybody. And that's just,
Your Honor.
So if I could, just 1 minute.
Okay.
So in that situation, what we're saying is that the city staff shouldn't be involved in an RFP or a bid process if by any means JFC is in bidding on a project. Is that correct?
well, with your position, I would say yes. And anybody, I mean, if Financial wanted to bid on something, I would say the same thing. Vaughn's Heating, potentially the same thing. We need to really watch what we're doing and make sure that we're not raising any question.
But what we're
issues.
saying is these professional staff that we have at that point shouldn't be trusted.
Not saying they shouldn't be trusted, Your Honor. I'm saying you have direct control over staff, and that does pose an issue and question. Whether it's justified or not, that's the way it is. And if we can't look at that and see that that's actually happens, then we've got a bigger problem than I thought we had. I think that's something we could easily walk away from, separate out, and make sure that it's done right and done to where.
And
there is
I
no
totally
question.
agree, Councilman Zotti, and I would ask again that if by any chance there was any inkling of that, Mr. McBurnett, are you aware of anything like that going on within the city?
Your Honor, I'm not aware of anything going on. I guess, can you be more specific with the question?
That with me being the mayor and the firm that I work with bidding on a job, that there's any type of manipulation of a system?
Your Honor, I'm not aware of any manipulation of the system, no.
Mr. Beckwith, are you
All right,
aware?
hang on.
We're not.
Just,
it's not
I had,
gonna get us
may I
anywhere.
say something too?
Councilman Shalata, go ahead.
I'm a little confused because the last council meeting, we had a discussion that you excused yourself in, that we were going to try to have a workshop with the council prior to any RFP being requested again. So I'm wondering why we haven't had that prior to this discussion, since there doesn't seem to be a timeline that we have to meet, why we don't just go and have that discussion, find out the best policy, best way of doing this, and come up with a solution, and so we don't have to go back and forth on this issue. I'm just asking that question. Why haven't we done that?
Councilman Shalata, I think maybe that's a good idea. I don't know. I wasn't part of that discussion, but I'm not quite sure that's going to clear up anything or give us a path forward when the path that we've been taking for 25 years is the process that we used. Frankly, whatever the council wants to do.
And it may not be broke, Mayor, that's what I'm saying. It may not be broke, but there could be some ideas generated out of a workshop that would present an alternative to how we do it now, So that's my question, why we
So-
haven't gone and done that.
So in a workshop situation, and what Councilman Zadi just stated, we're trying to define whether we need to improve the RFP process, correct?
Well, it's more on my end, having somebody in control of, or in charge of those who are making the selection in that. I mean, your situation is very unique. It's not the process. We haven't had problems with the actual process itself. We've got a situation here that is very unique, and it does raise question, and that's where the problem starts. And we need to eliminate that question. And the way, in my mind, to do that is to kind of distance ourselves as best we can. You to distance yourself as best you can. And I think we have a lot to learn from this and what's taken place over the couple of weeks, that there's a lot more distance that can be taken here, and should be. I just want to make sure that that takes place from here on out.
Councilman West, did you have some comments?
Yeah, I do. I think there's been a line drawn in the sand between staff and the council, and I don't think that's fair or justified, in particular department heads. It's not a matter of not trusting or respecting staff. We've gone through several comments of that. Is the respect shown in return? No. Watch the last meeting and you can make your own decision on that. But the process was the issue. I think accountability is a good thing, and asking questions, make sure that we're all informed before we make a decision is a good thing. Not everyone has to agree with that, but that's why we're all up here individually. Diversity in politics is a good thing. I don't think asking questions on a process that has an obvious elephant in the room is necessarily a negative thing. It is something, like Councilor Zadi pointed out, that probably needs to be addressed. There's many of us up here, it's small town government. We all have our own jobs where, conflicts like these arise. So I think the point of this is slow it down, let's fix the process, let's get it improved so we don't have to continually do this. At the last meeting, when you recused yourself, some of that discussion took place. We decided to add some counselors, although we didn't really make a decision. It was 2 counselors and that was it. And then we find out in an email that there's been a new selection committee that's been picked for the next RFP. So fine, so be it. But the communication is still vague, and now we're back into the battle of staff versus council, and I just don't think we need to go down that road. That's all I had.
Councilor West, I think here we have a good project, and I think there's just maybe a few that just are never going to be happy if the place that I'm employed bids on a project, which to me, small town, we all understand how that works. But I do think we do need to pull our heads together and work together to find a process that we can live with, because we do need to, this has been trust me, I was working on this project back in 2003. I know how much time's been put into the project. It's a worthwhile project. We fought to get the money back into phase 1, and whatever the council wishes to do, so be it. I think it's embarrassing to me that we would want to eliminate the professional staff to look at this project. But if the council wants to do that, we had discussions before, maybe we just throw it out to the school and Uadate or somebody like that to take a look at it. We came back to the determination to include, from some of your comments, a couple council people and city staff and some people from the outside. From what I understand, that's where we are today. So, councilors, I'm at a loss. At this point,
Well, we are where we are, and I wish we would have, we're told there were timelines in that, but it was a simple phone call, and I find out that, this is something easily that could have been kind of tap the brakes a little bit and slow down. Instead, we went full force and forward and had a new RFP in a short amount of time, and now we're ready to make a selection. So it's just really kind of more little not happy with how that went again in this. That was pretty easy to find out, and I kind of thought that would be the answer to the question, that, it's not hard to kind of slow down a little bit. We make the contact to the right people, And a simple call to AML, simple letter really is all it would take, and we would be able to do just that. Slow down, think about it, and make sure we're doing it right.
Your Honor,
Mr. Kalsic.
as a point of clarification, it was asked if there were timeline restrictions, and there are in the grant, if you read the grant document. That's what I told you.
Yeah, no, yes, you said there were timelines.
But you're implying that I gave you false information.
No, there's
I did not.
timelines. I'm not implying you gave us false.
And then also, when we discussed the RFP, you indicated that this one was already in the process, that we would have this workshop for future ones. That's it. And if you go back and you look at the meeting, that's what you said.
That's what I understood.
And so this one proceeded.
And now I didn't, and I'm gonna correct you, because I didn't say you were lying or anything. You did say there were timelines, and I agree that there were timelines. What I'm saying is, those aren't hard, solid timelines, and I was able to find out through a phone call that it's just a simple letter to put this on. And we know there's an issue, and there's question, and then there's turmoil going on over this whole process, and we speed through it. It doesn't make sense to me. And why can't we tap the brakes, slow down, and make sure we're doing this right? And it would have been very easy to do. That's,
Well, and I do not recommend not having any staff that are knowledgeable of the project on the selection committee. Why would you do that?
like I
Why?
said, it's to do away with any appearance in question of any kind of impropriety, any kind of,
There were millions and millions of dollars of consulting fees that have been awarded through this process.
Mhm.
The 8 years that the mayor was in office prior to this, they were awarded to other consultants, to JFC. There has never been an issue.
well, there is now. That's the problem. Doesn't mean that there
There
never
was an
It's po-
issue.
It's politics, though.
And it really wasn't.
It
an
has
issue.
nothing to do with the process.
It's not politics, and it
Or the
wasn't.
staff.
The only issue was counselors having a question and not getting answers to it. That's the issue. That's what caused this. If we were able to get answers to our questions and not be looked upon as being against staff, against anybody else for simply asking questions, doing my job as an elected official, we wouldn't be where we are today if we were able to get those answers. That's the problem.
I gave you all the answers that I had available to me. I did not withhold any information from you or any of the other counselors.
Well, we're not gonna take up 2 hours tonight on this, because frankly, I think it's ridiculous, and I don't think a few are ever gonna be happy, but, I would like to say, how much time do you think would be needed?
Jim, I don't know. And it's just.
Well, you're
being able
leading
to
this
get
campaign,
together
though,
and
how
go.
much? A couple weeks? What do you want?
It might, if we could sit down and go over and come up with the process that if you ever have a mayor who's president of a company who's going to bid a project, that it is clear, there's lines drawn, and there's distance. That's the issue. When questions were asked, you answered. You were involved, and it shouldn't have been that way.
You know, over the past several years, and I've always abstained, there had been numerous, it's a small town. The firm that I'm employed with has been on several jobs, won some and didn't win some. But, you know, Councilman Zotti, you're the one that seems to be the most unhappy. Give us an amount of time and fix the process, because meanwhile, the Bitter Creek does need to move forward.
We need to talk, we need to get together, and we need to find out what we're gonna do. If you're gonna bid, if JFC's gonna bid projects from here on out, how we're gonna distance this and how we're gonna create and do it in a way where it's open, transparent, and there is no question. If it takes 2 weeks, it takes 2 weeks. Let's have a workshop and hammer it out and get it done.
Which basically comes down to the point again of saying that you just feel there's just some shadiness going on here. So I agree with that. I'll tell you what, we'll get together and discuss a process. I don't think the committee has been selected from what I understand, but they haven't
The committee
reviewed.
meets Thursday to,
I don't think they reviewed any.
they have all the proposals.
Your Honor,
Councilman Savage.
Councilor Demus and I are on that committee, and I don't know, I probably spent 20 hours working on it this weekend.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I've spent a lot of time.
Would it be helpful if JFC pulled their bid?
I'm
No,
not saying that.
I think that might be next in order. That's what I.
no,
It still doesn't fix
No,
the issue.
because-
That's what we wanted, we need to fix this. And I told you up front, when you called on Tuesday, before all this was done, you said, hey, we won the bid, you're gonna get some calls. I'd emailed and said, hey, we need to hit this head on and figure out how we're gonna do this in a process that makes sense, because moving forward,
Okay, let's don't
Everyone
hash this
is
out
gonna be
again.
a
I'm
problem.
over this. Let's get together and talk about it as a council
ignored it,
president.
so,
Council president, myself, Mr. Kalsich, sit down and figure out how much time you feel is needed, how the process should work. Maybe we can select an outside. I haven't looking at industry. Mr. Pizzato, we went out and reached out to Uadate School District. How can we get everybody, make this transparent? But yet you can't forget about those very professional and dedicated staff, especially planning, who's been involved with this process for 20 years. Long time. So we'll get together. At this point,
Yeah, Your Honor, I am gonna need some direction on what to do with the selection committee
right, because you're meeting this
and the
Thursday.
current RFPs that have been submitted.
Well, I would say at this point, to postpone the meeting with the selection committee and immediately, maybe us three can sit down and hash out. Is anybody else on the council
Your Honor,
wish to
can we-
be
Can we
involved?
put this, just postpone it, put this on hold until it's hashed out?
Well, he's
Yeah.
saying the committee's meeting Thursday, so
No,
that's
I'm
the
saying
first thing.
the entire,
Well, Your Honor, the way the RFP states, it states that they made their submittals, the committee will meet and make the selection. I'm assuming if, we can send correspondence out to them that delays it, or we essentially reject them all and make them all go back through the whole process. But I believe that we could probably send them some correspondence, depending on how the process changes. You know what I mean?
well, what does council feel? Do we move forward with this? We want to make a motion to put it on hold, or what?
I'm
I
gonna
just
tell you,
voicing concerns and what I have, and this could have been, again, we could have not rushed into a second RFP very easily, and now we did, and here we are. And I don't think anybody involved in this, any of the firms involved with this, thinks it's going to be a fair or equitable or
Councilwoman
honest
Demus?
process right now.
I have spent a lot of time going over this. I mean, a lot. And for us just to think it's fine and dandy to not do anything really pisses me off.
You should have spoke up the previous meetings then.
Well,
That's the whole purpose of trying to fix this. You know,
But I
now all of a
was
sudden we're the
just
bad guys
appointed.
for asking questions.
I was
And
just appointed,
I understand that, but
and I got my work, and I did it.
I'm glad that you did. I appreciate your dedication and I respect you, Counselor Demus, but this is
For-
getting turned into just a reality TV show that
Yes.
is ridiculous. And Mayor, I don't want to be a part of you and Counselor Zadi and Mr. Kalsich's meeting, but I would like to have one with you because there is a huge issue on this council and it needs to be addressed. So I don't think we're getting anywhere. Let's just move on and figure the rest of it out.
If we could,
Sorry.
Councilor Zadi, get together this week. Mr. Kalsich, if you could just send a letter to the committee to postpone at least their review, and send a letter to the firms until Labor Day's Monday, till early next week. Give us the rest of this week to at least see if we can make some decisions that the council would be willing to accept. Is that acceptable to all?
Yeah.
Let's move forward in that fashion, if we could.
Your Honor, I will do
spent a
that.
lot of
Okay,
time.
thank you. And then, Rob, if you could just get with Kristen, maybe Thursday would work good, that we could get together and hash out a process that we could bring back before the council that makes sense, that's fair, everybody's acceptable.
I think if we can, in something moving forward, that's all I'm asking, is let's do something that we can do moving forward so there is no question in the future. I don't want to go through this again. I don't think anybody does.
Well,
I want to
and
make sure that we're doing it right.
I do have to agree after
Okay.
reading through the minutes, and I have to agree with Mr. Cowsage from the discussion that I heard bits and pieces of was that this was going to be for anything moving forward, and this resubmittal was to select a committee with a couple of counselors on it, outside individuals. Engineering did that. That wasn't good enough, so we'll have some further discussion. And Paul, if you would just send a letter, and we'll get together. Thursday would work if you just let Kristen know where that'd be, and we'll just bring a process before the council, let the review committee know if that's acceptable, and we'll move forward from there next meeting. In through correspondence prior to next meeting, actually, so this can proceed once everybody's okay with it. Is that acceptable to everyone? Does anybody have any other comments? Okay. Mr. Batolo? Yeah, come on down.
In following this Bitter Creek project, I would like to make a couple of points. I honestly believe that any time that there's a request for proposal, that any time a dollar figure is given out, that it be open just like a regular bid. We had one earlier tonight for roofing. What's the difference between roofing and engineering?
Okay, Mr. Patolo, there's a total difference between an RFP and a bid. A bid is for roofing, a vehicle. An RFP is a request for a proposal based on the city saying we're looking for a professional firm to give us ideas how to do this project. So cost is, it's not low dollar, it's basically who can submit the best plan. Let us take a look at the plan, and then we'll consider the cost and negotiate the cost with the best team of professionals that we think can do this project. So it has nothing to do with the bid. It can't be open. It basically gives that firm the opportunity to use best practices, trade secrets, to go out and say, we can do this, 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 and this, and we've learned this from this, and therefore this is our plan, this is our team, and then this would be our cost. So basically what the city or any agency would do is take a look at that with a selection committee by credentials, experience, and knowledge, trade secrets, and basically say, yeah, these are the people that can do this job. And then they take a look at the cost. So the cost is pretty much the last factor that they look at. And if they still want that team, then they can negotiate the cost. Can we take this out? Can you do this? Can you cut your cost? And that's what an RFP is.
Okay.
And I don't know if I can clear that up anymore. Paul, if you want to add anything else.
I understand that to some degree. But what if the process was to open the RFP publicly and then send it to committee for the scoring and add that ability to have transparency to the process?
Yeah, actually, all of our proposals are public documents anyway, so they're there for your review.
But you know what's not for the review? Is the scoring system. So I understand that there's 1.8 points between company A and company B. 1.8 may be a lot on a 5-point scale,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not on a 300-point scale.
Mm-hmm.
The public doesn't have that knowledge. So basically, if it's a 300-point scale, and you're talking about 1.8 points, you're basically talking a tie.
So, Mr.
And
Patolo.
wait a second, and you're talking about $250,000 difference of public funds, correct?
Not necessarily in the cost, but it
In
could be
this particular
negotiated.
bid, what I'm saying is I'm trying to help out with the process. I'm not attacking a company. I'm not attacking, I'm trying to look at the process and say, hey, look, any way that you can eliminate.
JFC from bidding.
No, I'm not talking about
That's-
JFC.
That's really what it is.
Let's use it for a heater.
I'm just gonna take it out.
Let's use a CTS. Let's use it for, Vaughn's. Let's use it for a heating company that's gonna come in and do things, Tim. It's not about a company. It's not about a company.
So,
It's about the appearance.
so what you're saying is we should also contact the state whose process we mirrored and say, you know what, this just doesn't work. Because here's when you're talking about, say, 1.2 points, okay, on maybe a 5 scale. The reason why they use that is they grade everything, and even in this situation, points are given for firms that haven't received work for a while. They may gain another point. So then you come up and you might be 1.2, you might be 0.2 points ahead. But the reason why the state agencies and government, they never open the cost is because whether it's 0.2 or 5, that's where the grade came in. So then that's the one that's handed over to be recommended, and then you open up the costs. So that's what I'm saying. The grading is just that, whether it's 0.2 or 5.2, they're still the higher grade.
I've talked
Just
to.
what I'm talking about, Mr. Mayor, is it could be for anything. And get the process to be to a point to where, whether it's my company or Keaton's company or Mr. Green's company, that you get to a process that it doesn't matter. That protects you, what I'm trying to say protects you as well as anybody else. Make it as transparent as possible.
But it's a different situation when you're dealing with a professional engineering firm and you're looking at requests for proposals, because
And I
say
don't
say
understand
heating, things like that, insurance, whatever it may be, you put together a bid. It's a bid. It's usually a sealed bid, and it's open. See, an RFP is a request for a proposal. Show me how you can do this better than everybody else. So
And
it's
it's
not
the-
really, it's not a bid. It's a proposal. Show us
And
what
it's
you
the-
can do, and then we'll take a look at your cost. And then the biggest thing here is it's a separation of $250,000, but it might not have been. Once the city selects that firm, then the cost of the RFP, and Devin could probably tell you, because he goes through this with engineers, it can be negotiated, saying, you know what, we only budgeted this. Can we bring this down now? We know you're the team. Now can we negotiate cost? That's what an RFP is. And then that person might say, no, we don't want to negotiate cost. And they could walk away. And then you might go to the second person. But if there is a case where you can decrease your scope of work and you can take away a few things that might not be needed or downgrade things, you still selected the team that you think can do it best. I think
But you
everybody
can
needs to
also-
understand
You
that.
could also go back to that one or two companies that bid to see what they can do to make sure that they understood the process to get that 1.8 away too. You can negotiate it on both sides, right?
No.
Why not?
Not the
If you're- if-
selection committee.
if
Once
you're-
it's selected, it's selected. I don't want to hash this out. You make good points, Brent. We're going to take a look at it, but we're not going to turn this into a 2-hour meeting again, because frankly, I think there's an easier way to address this, because it's surely not worth my time.
All I'm saying is try to make it as transparent as possible.
Yeah, exactly. Anybody else have any comments before we move on? Thanks, Brent. Appreciate it. Any other petitions? If not, I'm closing the petitions.
You got one
Oh, I do?
back in the back.
Oh, Mr.
Representative
Stiff.
Stith.
I didn't see you there. Recognize the Honorable Representative Clark Stith in the room. I'll reopen them just for you.
Mr. Mayor, thank you, members of the council. My name is Clark Stith, State Representative for House District 48, which is eastern and northern piece of Rock Springs. I'm not here to talk about the Bitter Creek project.
Thank God.
Other than to say that it's a good project. A lot of people worked a lot of years to make it work, and it's not about the creek itself, it's about people. Because the long-term goal of it is to get the old downtown out of the floodplain,
Right.
so you can have economic development. So keep your eyes on the prize, and I won't want to presume to tell you how to do your jobs, but I appreciate the work that you all do. A couple of things that I wanted to give you a legislative update in the interim that may be of interest to the city. One is I serve on the Judiciary Committee, and an issue that I've been working on for a couple of years on the Judiciary Committee has now become a committee-sponsored bill, and it relates to bid rigging on public contracts, which surprisingly is not a state law crime. This particular bill that's been sponsored and got a majority vote a couple weeks ago from the committee would make it a crime for private contractors who are bidding on a public works project, whether that's for the state or for the city, to not be able to collude on their bids. It's already a federal crime, it's just not a state crime. So there's another piece of that will also be taken up at the October meeting, which relates to pre-qualification criteria, which is a much more difficult issue. It's pretty easy to say, hey, private contractors shouldn't collusively bid. That's never proper. Pre-qualification is a more difficult issue because it does have legitimate uses. The Contractors Association did bring it to the committee that at least one contractor in Cheyenne, for example, was not allowed to bid on the remodel of a courthouse that same contractor had previously built 15 years earlier. They were deemed not to be qualified, not to be good enough to remodel the building that they had already constructed. So that was an example of pre-qualification requirements being a little too tightly structured. So one thing that I think is important on pre-qualification is for the cities and the Wyoming Association of Municipalities and the County Commissioners Association to have input in that process, because I think it would be to abolish pre-qualification requirements would be not a good thing, because it does serve a legitimate purpose. So you may want to appreciate whatever input you may have on that. It's a kind of a tough to get we don't have a bill draft on that. We're supposed to get a bill draft on that for the October meeting. Next item, last Thursday, or August 27th, the State Loan and Investment Board approved a different allocation model for CARES Act money. It's a bit complicated to understand, for me at least. I was on the phone this afternoon with the Office of State Lands and Investment asking what it meant, what they did, okay? And so in theory, of the CARES Act money, there $5 million is set aside, allocated for Rock Springs. So that's a really good thing, but that does not mean that the money just drops into the city treasury. All of the same strings still apply.
Yeah, same strings, carrot. Yeah, there it is, there it goes.
And so you still have to submit your application. So I encourage you to be imaginative and creative about making as many things as coronavirus related as you possibly can. So I'm sure you're working on that already. Final thing, kind of a big picture here. As you've all heard, the governor's recommended 10% big budget cut, $254 million out of the general fund. That was just yesterday was released the detail on that by agency. And so it's kind of, although it's very tedious, it's kind of interesting. I took a look at the Department of Health, which is the largest state agency on the general fund. There's $89 million being cut out of general fund money on that. But when you look at the details of it, you may wonder how they came up with that number. For example, right now the department, a very large department, has 1,349 employees, so 1,349 employees, big department, right? After they cut out $89 million, they're going to have 1,345 employees, okay, full-time employees. So that the employees of the Department of Health are secure for now, essentially. They are cutting a total of four full-time positions and 2 part-time positions. So where do they get $89 million? The Medicare, the healthcare service providers are going to take a 2.5% cut, I think, on their Medicaid reimbursements is what it sounds like. That gets you about $22 million. There's $40 million there that's kind of just made up out of thin air. They just say, well, hey, we don't think we're going to spend the money. So it's a bit of a black box. Anyway, encourage you to follow the budget process. I think there's going to be, the big picture is there's a lot of bad news on the financial front from the state. There's going to be a lot of pain to be shared all around by the state employees, local, and by the private sector. And I think so long as I think the goal should be to try to make it equitable so the pain is distributed fairly and evenly across the state.
Representative Stith, I appreciate the work you do for us, but sitting in the many discussions and following the proposed cuts and also some fairly decent ideas from the County Commissioners Association on how to make up. Where do we, it's got to come from somewhere. We're dealing with cutting the, there's talk about the $105 million of direct distribution money going away. Okay, well, where's that gonna come back? And one of the issues, discussions were, sales tax on food that was taken away before that cities, towns, and counties were assured that they were going to be made whole, and that never happened. But it seemed almost every time there was a suggestion on where there was an avenue to allow cities and towns to recoup some of those revenues via, maybe it's a tax, and nobody likes a tax, or other. Those issues were denied. So what's your thoughts about that? I mean, you can't have it one way and not make it up somewhere else. I mean, the cities, towns, and counties are the foundations of what makes the state. Sales tax revenues are down, mineral revenues are down, and you just can't jump out and say we're going to cut your direct distribution to $105 million. We're just going to take it out, not cut it. We're going to take it out. Where's that money going to come from?
Mr. Mayor, I could not agree more. I think that we do have to find additional revenue sources. The Revenue Committee, as you pointed out just now, voted down every proposal.
Everyone.
So it could happen. I don't serve on the Appropriations Committee, but it could happen at the
Well, my
Appropriations
biggest
Committee
concern is
might pick
we
up.
continue to lean on the backs of industry, minerals, and those folks pay a pretty hefty fair share of their taxes here. We're gonna eventually bite the hand that feeds the state, and we're gonna chase those people away, and we're gonna have a heck of a time claiming economic development when we're right back in the same boat as everybody else. We don't have anything to offer. That's why they come here, is because it's a low tax base and a great place to set up shop. But we have a prime opportunity right now, especially as much as I hate COVID-19, and I don't ever care if I hear the term again. We have a prime opportunity that some of these areas are looking to relocate to a much rural setting and get away from the crazy life that we see on national news. Although sometimes it's just as crazy here, I can assure you. But we have the opportunity to drive our economic development and secure those businesses and bring them in here. But we're not going to be able to do that if we keep, forcing the industry and those folks that are here or coming here to pay the bill.
And Mr. Mayor, it does not make a very good campaign slogan, but I am in favor of repealing many of these sales tax exemptions, because I think it's part of spreading the pain evenly and fairly and
Right.
restoring a revenue stream for the cities. The city, you depend upon 60-some% of your revenue on sales tax.
I want to say the total exemptions just for cities and towns, if they pulled back the exemptions, were somewhere around $240 million for cities and towns.
It's a big number statewide. It's a very big number. So
I've got a question for you too, in alluding to what Mayor was saying, that we always rely on the industry in taxing and gaining revenue from that. Is there any concern that we're doing that with healthcare now? Because you're going to ding them another 2.5% on Medicare and that. So what's going to happen to the doctors and medical services in the state? What are they going to do? They're not going to be around any longer. And so now, not only are we chasing away industry, we're chasing away our healthcare and not making the hard decisions that need to be made. We're going to put it onto the healthcare providers now, and that to me is very frustrating as well. We're just the same pattern that we've seen over and over again, but now our healthcare is at risk.
truly said. So thank you so much for your time, and it's always a pleasure to appear in front of you.
Well, nice to see you, Representative. We hope you come back and visit us. We'll be seeing more of you in the near future, I'm sure. And with that, I'm going to reclose the petition section of our agenda. and move on to the officers and staff reports. Counselors, we have item number 1, the Animal Control Monthly Report for July 2020. What's your pleasure?
Move to approve.
We do have a motion to approve the officers and staff reports. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the council committee and board reports. Counselors, we have item number 1, the Parks and Rec Advisory Board meeting minutes, June 11th, 2020. And I would ask, is there any other reports? Counselor West, do you have anything? Anybody?
Nope.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion to approve the council committee and board reports and place on file.
So move, Your Honor.
We do have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, this is going to bring us to our correspondence. Counselors, if you have had time to take a look at that, I just would like to lead your attention to item number 1 for just a quick moment, if I could. And item number 1 was a letter sent to my office from the Secretary of State, which really quickly from Edward Buchanan on behalf of the state of Wyoming 65th Legislature 2019 General Session. I am proud to transmit to you a copy of the original House Joint Resolution 10, House Enrolled Joint Resolution 3, to designate cities and communities in the state of Wyoming as Medal of Honor cities or communities to honor the Medal of Honor recipients connected with the cities, with these cities or communities. And it goes on to say basically that several of these Wyoming designated cities, which included Casper, Graybull, Cheyenne, Laramie, Powder River, Rock Springs, 3 unincorporated areas, Platte River, Elkhorn Creek, and Bluff Station, as Medal of Honor cities. And what they request is that we erect a monument that we could then honor those individuals, of which I am still searching for who these individuals may be in our community, and place that memorial down by the flag, and which would also include, from what I understand, some Purple Heart recipients. So just kind of FYI, we're having some discussion with Uadate to maybe receive a small monument, if you would. But we have been designated as Medal of Honor community, which I think is extremely honorable. We spend a lot of time here with our military men and women, those who we've lost in service or who are serving, and their families. And I think this is a great honor to be nominated as one of these. So we'll keep you posted in the future how this goes, but it's out there. So with that, if there's no other questions, I would entertain a motion to approve all the correspondence and place on file.
So move, Your Honor.
Thank you. We do have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, this can bring us to the bills and claims section of our agenda. Councilors, item number 1 is the bills and claims for September 1st, 2020.
Your Honor,
Councilwoman Demas.
I make a motion to approve the bills and claims for September 1st, 2020.
We do have a motion to approve the bills and claims for September 1st, 2020. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and item number 2, the salaries for August 21st, 2020. Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilwoman Demas.
I make a motion to approve the salaries for August 21st, 2020.
We do have a motion to approve the salaries for August 21st, 2020. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? This can bring us to the new business items. We have 6. Item number 1, the request for a liquor license transfer from K Street Incorporated, located at 131 K Street, Rock Springs, Wyoming. Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor.
Councilman Shalata.
Move to approve this request.
We do have a motion to honor this request. We have a second.
Second.
Second has been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 2, the request from the Engineering Operations and Public Services Department for permission to bid a truck for the Water Operations Division. Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilman Shalata.
I move to approve this request also.
Do we have a motion to approve this request? Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 3 is the request from the Engineering and Operations and Public Services Department for permission to purchase a used tanker trailer and pup for the Streets Division, which was approved in the budget. Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilman, who was that, Savage?
thank you. I move to approve this request for a tanker trailer and pup.
We do have a motion to approve this request. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 4, the request from Parks and Rec Department for permission to bid grinders for the golf course mowers. Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor, I move to approve that request.
We do have a motion to approve this request. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and item number 5, a request from the Parks and Recreation Department for permission to fill a vacant recreation supervisor position at the Civic Center. Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilman Shalata.
I move to approve this request, and I'd like to say the person that we lost was a very good worker.
Yeah. We do have a motion to approve this request. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 6, the request from Sarah Burns for permission to hold a farewell to the neighborhood block party on September 12th, 2020 from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. on Marchant Street from between McKinley and Adams Avenue on September 12th, 2020, contingent on approval from the Public Health Department. And from what we understand, there is no street closure on this, correct? Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilman Shalata.
move to approve this request.
We do have a motion to approve this request. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Let's move us on to our resolutions, of which we have 4, councilors. Resolution 2020-135.
A resolution accepting and approving an amendment to the City of Rock Springs Cemetery Grave Fee Schedule.
Councilman, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilman Shalata.
move to approve Resolution 2020-135.
We do have a motion to approve Resolution 2020-135. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. Roll call.
Counselor Halter,
Yes.
Zadi,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Demus,
Yes.
Shalata,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Savage,
Yes.
Mayor Como.
Yes. Item number 2, Resolution 2020-136.
A resolution accepting and approving a grant agreement between the U.S. Department of Transportation, Federal Aviation Administration, and the City of Rock Springs, and authorizing Timothy A. Como as mayor of the City of Rock Springs, Wyoming, to execute said grant agreement on behalf of said city.
Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilman Savage.
I move to approve Resolution 2020-136.
We do have a motion to approve Resolution 2020-136. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. Roll call.
Counselor Zadi,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Demus,
Yes.
Shalata,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Savage,
Yes.
Halter,
Yes.
Mayor Como.
Yes. Item number 3, Resolution 2020-137.
A resolution approving and accepting a financial guarantee for the remaining subdivision improvements to be installed for the Garnet addition in lieu of the alternative approval procedure set forth in Section 16503K of the ordinances of the City of Rock Springs.
Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilman West.
move to approve Resolution 2020-137.
We do have a motion to approve Resolution 2020-137. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second's been called. Roll call.
Counselor Green,
Yes.
Demus,
Yes.
Shalata,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Savage,
Yes.
Halter,
Yes.
Zadi,
Abstain.
Mayor Como.
Abstain because the firm of which I am employed has completed the plat and the estimates. Item number 4, Resolution 2020-138.
A resolution accepting and approving a contract with R&D Sweep and Asphalt Maintenance for the city's 2020 crack sealing project in the amount of $53,595 and authorizing Timothy A. Como as mayor of the city of Rock Springs to execute said contract on behalf of the city of Rock Springs.
Councilors, what's your pleasure?
Your Honor,
Councilman Halter?
move to approve 2020-138.
We do have a motion to approve Resolution 2020-138. Do we have a second?
Second,
Second's been called. Roll call.
Counselor Demas,
yes.
Shalata,
Yes.
West,
Yeah, quick question, Matt. What did you say that amount was? I think you might have just misread it was all. I thought I heard 53,635.
I'm sorry, we have a
53,690.
695.
let me look at the page. Yeah, I'm sorry. It looks like
Is it
the
a
header of
typo?
my resolution is wrong. It's actually $53,695.
Correct.
Instead of $595, it's $695.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Just wanted to clarify, but no problem, and yes.
Savage,
Yes.
Halter,
Yes.
Zadi,
Abstain.
Green,
Yes.
Mayor Como.
Yes. Council, with no further business to come before the city council, this meeting is adjourned.